His lips were on hers before she could say a word. That was how it happened. No warning. No long speech. No moment where she could have stopped it even if she wanted to. Which she did not. 1 second she was standing at the kitchen counter, alone, the last guest gone, the dining room quiet, Chicago 40 floors below and full of lights. And the next second his hand was on her face, and he was kissing her like he had been waiting to do exactly this for 3 weeks, and he was done waiting. Her hands came up to his chest. She could feel his heart beating, fast and strong. She did not pull back. She kissed him back. She kissed him like she had been waiting too. Because she had. When they finally pulled apart, she kept her eyes closed for 1 second. Just one breath. Taking it in. When she opened them, he was still there. Still close. Still looking at her with those dark eyes that had been following her around this kitchen for 3 weeks. Hi. He almost smiled. Hi. She laughed. Small and surprised. The kind of laugh that happens when something good catches you completely off guard. He smiled then. The real smile. The one she had only ever seen once before, just a flash of it, and it changed his whole face. It made him look younger. It made him look happy. It made him look like himself. She thought, I want to see that smile every single day for the rest of my life. She thought, when did that happen? She thought, it was not tonight. Tonight was just the night she finally said yes to something she had felt building since the very first night. Since the moment she pushed a piece of chocolate tart across a counter and told him to finish it. Because before the kiss, there was the kitchen. And before the kitchen, there was a man who came back for his phone and found something else entirely. 3 weeks before that kiss, Claire took a job she almost turned down. The private dining room on the 42nd floor of the Aldwyn Tower was one of the best kitchens she had ever worked in. Big windows on 3 sides. A kitchen with everything she needed. A dining room that felt warm even when it was full. She had moved to Chicago 8 months ago to start over. She had been rebuilding her life one good dinner at a time. She was good at her job. Very good. And she had not come to this city looking for anything except the work. She arrived at 4 in the afternoon to start cooking. She did not expect to meet anyone. At 6 o'clock, Shin Jae-won walked into her kitchen. She knew who he was. Most people did. He had built one of the biggest technology companies in the world, starting with nothing in Seoul when he was in his mid-20s. Everyone said it would not work. They were wrong. He was in Chicago to close a business deal. He was staying in the private floors at the top of the Aldwyn Tower. He walked in and looked around at everything she had set up. Then he looked at her. You are the chef. Yes. She did not stop working. How long have you been cooking? She glanced up. Since I was 9. He let that sit for a second. What made you start? She stopped. That was not the question she expected. Most people asked about her training. Her resume. Where she had worked before. Nobody ever asked what made her start. My grandmother. Her kitchen. The way she cooked like she had all the time in the world. He looked at her. Did she what? Have all the time in the world? Claire looked at him properly for the first time. No. But she cooked like she did. That was the lesson. He nodded slowly. Like that meant something to him. I will let you work. He left. She stood at her counter for a moment after he was gone. Then she picked up her knife and kept going. But something had changed. Something small and quiet. She could feel it in the room. The dinner that night was for 12 people. Claire cooked and did not think about him. She tried not to. She stayed focused on the food. Each dish came out exactly right. She could hear the quiet sounds of appreciation from the dining room after every course. At the end of the night, she plated the dessert herself. A chocolate tart. Dark chocolate. Bitter and sweet with a touch of sea salt at the end that most people never even noticed. She sent it out. And the dining room went quiet. Not the quiet of people with nothing to say. The quiet of people who had stopped talking because the food in front of them was asking for their full attention. She smiled to herself at the counter. That silence. That was the one she cooked for. Not the compliments. That silence. The guests left. Her team cleaned up and went home. She stayed to do the final check herself. She always did. She cut herself a small piece of the leftover tart and stood at the counter eating it slowly. Eyes closed. Just her and the quiet. She heard the door. She opened her eyes. Jae-won was standing in the kitchen doorway. He had his jacket in one hand. I thought everyone had gone. He held up his phone. I left this. He walked over and picked it up from the counter near the door. He should have left after that. He did not leave. He looked at the tart. That was the best thing I have eaten in 3 years. She studied him. Not flattered. Just steady. Deciding if he meant it. Which part? Most people did not answer that. Most people just said thank you and moved on. He paused. The bitterness. And the salt at the end. She felt it. The thing she had been waiting to feel with someone for a very long time. Most people do not notice the salt. Most people are not paying attention. She slid the rest of the tart across the counter toward him. Then finish it. He sat down on the stool. He finished it. And then neither of them moved to leave. She leaned against the counter with her arms folded. He sat on his stool with his jacket across his knees. Outside, Chicago was dark and full of lights. The city looked small from up here. Small and beautiful. Tell me something true. Something you would not say to a room full of people. She looked at him. She thought about it. I cook better when no one is watching. Not because I perform for people, but because when it is just me and the food, I stop second-guessing myself. He leaned forward slightly. What do you second-guess? Whether it is good enough. Whether I am good enough. She had not meant to say that last part. It came out on its own. Your turn. She said it quickly. He thought about it. I build a company that over 40,000 people work for. And the only time I feel like myself is when I am somewhere no one knows my name. She turned that over. Like here. He held her gaze. Like here. The kitchen was quiet around them. It was the strangest thing. She had worked in rooms like this hundreds of times. She had never once felt like she could say something true and have someone really hear it. You should get some sleep. Yes. He stood up. He picked up his jacket. He walked to the door and stopped. He said her name in his mouth. Something about the way he said it. Like he had been holding it carefully all night. I will need the same team again next week. She nodded. I will let them know. He left. She stood at the counter alone. She stood there without moving for a long moment. Then she cleaned up, locked the kitchen, and went home. She told herself it was nothing. She knew it was not nothing. The next dinner was smaller. 6 people. She arrived early to prep. She told herself she was not hoping to see him before service. At 5:30 he walked into the kitchen. Dark trousers. A white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Glasses she had not seen before. He looked more relaxed than he had at dinner. More like himself. She kept her hands moving. You are early. I live here. He glanced around the kitchen. Technically. Then technically you are in my kitchen. She heard him stop. Then a quiet laugh. Small and real. Fair. He leaned against the far wall. He said nothing after that. He just watched her work. She could feel it. Every second of it. The way his eyes followed her hands. The way he was completely still. The way the kitchen felt different with him in it. Warmer. More alive. You are staring, she said without looking up. I am watching. What is the difference? Staring is rude. Watching is something else. She looked up. He was not looking at her hands. He was looking at her face. She dropped her eyes back to the cutting board. Her hands were steady, but her heart was doing something that had nothing to do with work. Are you going to stand there all evening? Yes. Simply, like it was already decided. She did not tell him to leave. The guests left at 10. She was finishing the cleanup when she heard him come back in. She did not turn around. She heard something being said on the counter. 2 cups of tea. Jamaica. You do not drink wine during service. She turned to look at him. You noticed that. I notice everything about you. He said it simply. No showing off. No trying to impress her. Just true. She picked up the cup. Warm in both hands. She sat on the stool. He sat on the one across from her. Why are you still here? Because I do not want to be anywhere else. 40 floors of Chicago pressed against the windows around them. Something was building in the space between them. She could feel it. Big and quiet at the same time. I keep thinking about what you said. Which part? About second-guessing yourself. About wondering if you are good enough. She turned her cup slowly. What about it? I do the same thing. Every decision. Every meeting. Every day. I wonder if I am making the right call. And then I make it anyway because someone has to. Does it get easier? No. But you get better at living with not knowing. She was quiet for a moment. I am not there yet. He said it softly. I know. Not feeling sorry for her. Just seeing her. Exactly as she was. Not asking her to be anything different. Something she had been holding tight for a long time came loose. Tell me something else. Something true. He looked at her for a long moment. I have not felt at home anywhere in 6 years. Not in Seoul. Not in Tokyo. Not in New York. I stopped expecting to feel it. And now. He looked right at her. He looked right at her. Now I am not so sure about that. She should have said something safe. Something that kept a little distance between them. Instead she said, tell me about Seoul. And he did. For 2 hours he talked. His mother's kitchen in the morning. The smell of food before school. His father, who died when he was 12 and left a quiet that never fully went away. The years of building something from nothing. The nights he almost gave up. The morning he decided he was not going to. She listened to all of it. She did not look away once. When he finally stopped, he looked a little surprised at himself. "Your father died when you were young," she said softly. "Yes. He was a carpenter. He made real things. Things you could touch. And I built a technology company. Sometimes I wonder what he would say." "What do you think he would say?" He thought about it for a moment. "I think he would ask if I was happy." She looked at him. "You built something from nothing." Same as him, just with different tools. He stared at her, like she had just said the one thing he had needed to hear for years. She reached across the counter. She put her hand over his. He looked down at it. Then he turned his hand over and held hers. They sat like that for a long time. Not talking, not needing to. Just two people who had been carrying things alone for too long. Sitting together in a warm kitchen. Holding on. The third dinner was the smallest yet. For people. Two of them left early. By 9 it was just J1 and one other guest. The last guest shook Claire's hand at the door and told her the food was the best he had eaten in years. She was packing her bag when she felt him behind her. She turned around. He was leaning in the doorway. No jacket. Sleeves rolled up. Looking at her with that look she was starting to know well. The one that meant he had something to say. His voice was quiet. "Stay." She looked at him. "I am still on the clock. I will pay the overtime." She almost laughed. "That is not," she started. "Stay," he said again. Quieter this time. Not a work request. Something else entirely. She set her bag down. He walked, and she followed him through the dining room to the window. The full wall of glass. Chicago spread out below them. Lights everywhere. The river cutting through the city like a dark ribbon. The lake shining at the edge of everything. She stood beside him and looked at it all. "Do you ever get used to this view?" "No. Every night I look at it and think the same thing." "What thing?" "That it is strange to be so far up and still feel so close to everything." He was facing the city. The lights were on his face, half bright, half shadow. She thought, "This is the most beautiful man I have ever stood next to." She thought, "I am in trouble." "What are you thinking right now?" She looked back at the city. "I think about how small I feel up here, and how that is actually a good thing. Because when I feel small, my problems feel small too." He turned to look at her. "I have been carrying the same heavy thing for 6 years." "What is it?" "The fear that I built the right thing for the wrong reasons." "What were the wrong reasons?" He looked at her. "To prove something. To a father who was not there to see it." She felt that in her chest like something breaking open. "He sees it. You do not know that. I know that love does not disappear when someone is gone. And I know you built something real. That is not nothing. That is love looking for somewhere to go." He went very still. Like she had said the exact right thing. Like he had been waiting to hear it without knowing he was waiting. He reached out and took her hand. Not gently this time. Like a decision he had already made. She felt the warmth of it. "Jay. I know. I know this is fast. I know." Softer. He stepped closer. She did not step back. His hand came up to her face. Warm. Careful. Asking. "I am scared." His hand stayed warm against her face. "So am I." She looked at him. A man who had built an empire and never felt at home in it. Who had sat at a counter at midnight and told her true things when he did not have to. Who had come back. Not for his phone. For her. "Okay." And she kissed him first. When they finally pulled apart, she pressed her forehead against his. Both of them catching their breath. Neither of them speaking. She could feel his hands in her hair. She could feel the warmth of him. She could feel something in her chest opening up. Like a window she had kept shut for a long time. "What is this?" she whispered. "Something real." "You are sure?" "Yes." "How?" she said. "Because nothing has felt this real in a very long time. And I know the difference now." His face was open and steady. Nothing hidden. "I do not do things halfway." He nodded slowly. "I already know. I am the same." "Okay." He smiled. That whole face smile. "You keep saying okay. It is the best word I have right now." He laughed. She laughed. And the city below them kept going, and the lights kept burning, and the lake sat cold and still far below. And the two of them stood in that high warm room and laughed together for the first time. And it was the best sound she had ever heard in a kitchen. She had not planned to stay that long. But it was 2 in the morning, and neither of them had moved. They had sat on the floor by the window with the city below them and talked their way through the whole night. She told him about her grandmother's house. The smell of it. The way the kitchen felt in the mornings. Standing on a little step stool because she was too short to reach the counter. Her grandmother's hands guiding hers. Be slow, her grandmother always said. Good things do not need to be rushed. He told her about his first year building Nova Crest. The one person who stayed when everyone else left. The night the money ran out, and he called his mother, and she said, find a way. So he did. She told him about the night she knew she was a real chef. Not the night she got her first job. Not the first good review. A quiet night alone in a small kitchen, cooking for nobody. And the moment she tasted the food and just knew. He told her about the moment he knew Nova Crest was going to make it. Not a meeting. Not a number on a page. A young engineer who stopped him in the hallway and said, I just want you to know I believe in what we are building. And J1 had stood in a stairwell afterward and felt something give way in his chest. They talked about everything. And about nothing. And at some point the talking stopped, and they were just sitting side by side with their shoulders touching. Watching the city move from dark night to the first pale light of morning. She had talked more that night than she had talked in months. Maybe longer. She had said things she had not said to anyone. Things about her grandmother. The specific smell of that kitchen on winter mornings. The way her grandmother never hurried anything. Not the food. Not the conversation. Not the love she gave. Claire had tried to cook like that her whole life. She was still trying. He had told her about his mother. How she had worked 2 jobs the year after his father died, without ever letting her children feel the weight of it. How she had put food on the table every single night. How she had said, on the night he called her with nothing left in the account, find a way. Not, I will help you. Not, come home. Just, find a way. Because she believed he could. He had. Claire had listened to all of it without trying to fix any of it. He had done the same for her. This was what she had been missing. Not just someone to be with. Someone to be honest with. You should sleep. Yes. He did not move. I do not want to. I know. She turned to look at him. He was watching the window. The first light was just starting. Soft and gray and very far away. When is the next dinner? He turned to her. 3 days. She nodded. She stood up. She picked up her bag. He walked her to the door. He held it open. She stopped in the doorway. Jay, she said. Yes. 3 days is a long time, she said. He looked at her. Then he reached into his pocket and held out his phone. He held out his phone. Put your number in. She took it. She typed her number. She saved it under, the chef. He looked at the screen, then up at her. She was already smiling. He smiled back. Good night, Claire. She was already at the elevator. Good morning, she called back. And she walked to the elevator. She did not look back, but she was smiling the whole way down. He texted her that same morning. She was on the train home when her phone buzzed. 3 days is too long. She smiled and typed back, you will survive. He replied, will I? She put her phone away, still smiling. He texted her that evening. A photo of a small food stall he had passed on the street. Hand-painted sign. Menu written in chalk. The kind of place that had been there forever. The text said, tell me what you would order. She typed back everything she would order and why. He replied, come show me. She typed, when? He typed, tomorrow morning. She looked at her ceiling. She typed, 8 a.m. He typed, I will be outside. She set her phone down. She thought about all the reasons to slow down. All the reasons to be careful. Then she thought about a man sitting on the floor at 2 in the morning telling her true things. She thought about his hand turning over to hold hers. She thought about the look on his face when she kissed him first, like she had given him something he had stopped hoping for. She picked up her phone. She typed, do not be late. He replied, I am never late. She laughed out loud in her empty apartment. The place was called Marta's. It had been there since before either of them was born. The woman who ran it had been making the same breakfast since the beginning and was not changing it for anyone. She was small and unhurried, and she looked at new customers the way someone looks at a stranger who walks into their living room uninvited. Not rude. Just, I see you. Let us see if you deserve to be here. Claire had been here twice before on her own. Marta had warmed up to her on the second visit. When Claire walked in that morning with J1, Marta looked at him once, and then at Claire, and then back at her coffee machine without a word. That was as close to approval as Marta gave anyone. They sat at the counter on old wooden stools and Claire ordered for both of them without asking. He ate everything she ordered. He asked her about every single dish. Why that one? What made it good? What she tasted that most people missed? She answered all of it. He listened like it was the most important thing he had heard all week. She had cooked for hundreds of people over the years. Nobody had ever listened to her talk about food like this. Like what she thought actually mattered. Like her words were worth leaning forward for. You love it. She looked up. What? All of it. Not just the cooking. The thinking about it. Talking about it. Your whole face changes when you talk about food you love. My face changes. You look free. That is the only time I do. I want to know every single thing that makes you look like that. It was such a simple sentence. She felt it all the way through. That could take a while, she said. Good. Marta refilled their coffee without being asked and without making eye contact. Her version of a compliment. Outside, the city was waking up around them. Inside, the two of them sat at the counter and let the morning go by. The dinner 3 days later was the best one yet. Not because of the guests or the occasion. Because she cooked it for him. Not out loud. Not officially. But every dish she made that night she made thinking about him. What he had told her about growing up. The food that felt like home to him. The flavors of his childhood. She built the whole menu around those things without saying so. She sent each course out through the pass, and she watched. After the first dish, she saw him go still. He looked up. His eyes went straight to the kitchen. To her. He knew. She looked right back. Neither of them smiled. It was better than smiling. It was knowing. The dinner ended. The guests left. Her team cleaned up and went home. She was the last one in the kitchen. She did not pretend she had not been waiting. She stood at the counter. She waited. The door opened. He came back. He walked across the kitchen slowly. He stood in front of her, looking at her the way he had been looking at her all evening. Like she was something he had been searching for and had finally found. The menu tonight. She met his eyes. Yes. You cooked for me. Not a question. A fact he was naming. She met his eyes. Yes. He was very still. The flavors from home. A version of them. My own take. But the heart of it is yours. Something moved in his face. Something open and quiet. Not something he usually let people see. He reached out and took her hand. Held it carefully. Like something he intended to keep. He said her name first. I know what this is. I have known since the first night. So have I. I was waiting. She searched his face. For what? For you to be sure. This man who had waited without complaining. Who had been patient without making her feel bad about it. Who had told her true things and listened to hers and sat on the floor talking until morning. Who had come back not for his phone. Who had come back for her. I am sure. He kissed her. And this time it was different from the first kiss. The first kiss was a beginning. This one was a promise. Love is not always slow. Sometimes it comes fast. Like a storm you can see coming from far away. You think you have time. And then suddenly it is here. And it is everywhere. And there is no part of you it has not touched. That was how it was for Claire. She had not planned any of this. She had come to Chicago to rebuild. To work. To put one foot in front of the other until the ground felt solid again. She had a plan for herself. A careful one. Work hard. Save money. Open the restaurant. Do it alone. Trust yourself and no one else. She had been following that plan well. And then Shin Jae-won walked into her kitchen and sat on a stool and answered the question about which part. And the plan stopped making as much sense. She noticed it happening, and she told herself to slow down. She was careful. She watched for the gaps. The small things that did not add up. The difference between what someone says and what they do. She did not find any. What she found instead was a man who said exactly what he meant. Every time. Who did exactly what he said. Every time. No gaps. No performance. Just him. She loved him. She knew it the morning after the fourth dinner. She woke up and his last text was still on her phone. One word. Good night. She held the phone and thought, I love this man. Quietly. Certainly. Like a fact that had been true for a while, and she was only now ready to say out loud. She texted him, Good morning. He replied in less than a minute. Come for breakfast. She typed, I have things to do. He typed, after. She smiled. She typed, after. She went to the Aldwyn Tower after her errands. He had stocked the kitchen with everything she had ever mentioned liking. Without asking. Without making a list. Just from listening to her. The specific coffee she had mentioned once in passing. The brand of salt she used in her tart. The tea she had said she grew up drinking. The fruit she had told him her grandmother used to keep on the counter. Every single thing. There in the kitchen waiting for her. She stood at the counter and looked at all of it. She could not speak for a moment. She had cooked for people her whole life. She had fed hundreds of people. She had never once had someone pay attention like this. Not to her. Not to what she actually needed. Something closed off in her throat. You did not have to do this. He just watched her. I know. He was leaning against the far counter, watching her. You remembered all of it. He shrugged slightly. I told you. I pay attention. She turned to look at him. Jay, she said. Yes. I love you. Just like that. No big speech. No build-up. Just the truth. He did not move for one long second. Then he crossed the kitchen in 3 steps. He put his hands on her face. He kissed her like she had just said the thing he had been waiting to hear. When they pulled back, she was laughing. Not because it was funny. Because she was happy. Real. Full. Simple happiness. The kind she had forgotten what it felt like. He put his hands on her face. I love you. I know. He raised an eyebrow. You know? You stocked the whole kitchen, she said. He laughed. She kissed him again. She had been dreaming about her own restaurant since culinary school. A small place. Her name on the door. 30 seats. Food that changed based on what was best. A kitchen that was completely hers. She told him about it one evening sitting on the kitchen floor, their backs against the counter, the city going dark outside. She told him the whole thing. The space she had imagined. The kind of food she wanted to make. The way it would feel to walk into that room every single night. The menu that would change with the seasons. The 30 seats she had always pictured. Small enough to feel like something personal. Big enough to be real. She told him about the name she had already chosen. Waverly. Her own name. On the door. The first time she said it out loud to another person, she felt something shift in the room. Like saying it made it more real. Like saying it meant she actually believed it was going to happen. He listened to all of it. His eyes on her face the whole time. Not on his phone. Not looking around. Just listening. Then he said, when are you going to do it? I need more money. He was already leaning forward. I know people. No, she said. He stopped. This one has to be mine. He did not argue. He did not push. I know. I just want to be there when you open. She smiled. You will be at table 1. Good. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He put his arm around her. Outside the windows, Chicago moved through its night, unhurried. The kitchen held them both in its warmth. She thought about how long she had carried that dream alone. How many times she had almost let it go. How different it felt right now. Saying it out loud to someone who heard every word and believed in it fully. Thank you. She said it quietly. For what? For not trying to fix it. He shook his head gently. It does not need fixing. It needs building. Yes. It needs building. The restaurant was called Waverly. One word. Her name. Her own. The night before it opened, she stood alone in the kitchen. Her team had gone home. The dining room was set. The food was prepped. Everything was ready. She cut herself a small piece of the chocolate tart she had made for tomorrow. Dark and bitter with a touch of salt. She stood at the counter and ate it slowly. Eyes closed. Her grandmother's voice in her head. Cook like you have all the time in the world. She heard the door. She opened her eyes. He was standing in the kitchen doorway. Dark coat. The city glowing behind him through the glass. How did you get in? You gave me a key. For emergencies. He stepped inside. This felt important. She crossed to the counter and slid the rest of the tart toward him. Finish it, she said. He sat down on the stool. He tasted it. He closed his eyes for just a second. The salt, he said. Yes. Perfect, he said. He set the fork down and looked at her. The same counter. The same 2 stools. The same 2 people. Everything different now. I was thinking about the first night. His voice was quiet. So was I. You came back for your phone, she said. No. She looked at him. I came back for you. I just did not know it yet. Those words settled in her chest like something warm. Then she said, I knew. He raised an eyebrow. His eyebrow went up. You knew? When you sat down on that stool. When you finished the tart. When you answered which part. Most people do not answer that question. He smiled slowly. Most people are not paying attention. She felt the warmth of the old words between them. Are you ready for tomorrow? He said. Yes. Scared? He said. Yes. Good. She came around the counter. He opened his arms, and she walked into them. He held her in her kitchen. In the restaurant she had built from a dream. In the life she had chosen. She pressed her face against his shoulder and stood there for a moment. Just breathing. Just feeling the weight of what tomorrow was. All the years of wanting this. All the nights she had almost given up on it. All the work and the fear and the doubt and the getting back up. And now here. Her kitchen. Her name on the door. His arms around her. Chicago moved through its night outside the glass. Everything quiet. Everything good still ahead. Thank you. She set it into his shoulder. For what? For coming back. He pressed his lips to her hair. He pressed his lips to her hair. Always. Waverly opened on a Thursday evening. 30 seats. Every one of them full. Claire arrived 2 hours before service. She walked through every part of the restaurant once. The dining room. The kitchen. The corner table by the window. She ran her hand along the top of the pass. She adjusted one fork that was slightly out of place. She stood in the center of her kitchen for a moment and just breathed it in. Her kitchen. Her space. Her name on the door outside. Then she tied her apron and she got to work. She cooked from the past and she cooked clean and honest and completely herself. The way her grandmother had taught her. Like she had all the time in the world. All evening the dining room went quiet after every dish. That silence. Her silence. The one she had been cooking toward her whole life. She heard it again and again, and she smiled to herself every single time. At 10 o'clock the last tables were finishing their dessert. Joe had been at table 1 since the very first seating. He had ordered everything on the menu. He had eaten every single bite. He had not said a word all evening. He had not needed to. He had just been there, steady and quiet and completely present, the way he always was. When she finally came out of the kitchen, he stood up. He walked across the room to her. "Well," she said. "Perfect," he said. "Which part?" That quiet smile. "All of it. Even the salt?" "Especially the salt." She laughed. He smiled. "The real one. The whole face one." A few people in the room looked over without meaning to. Because there was something in the room right then that made you want to look. Something warm. 2 people standing in the middle of a room one of them had built from nothing. Looking at each other like they were exactly where they were supposed to be. He asked her on a quiet evening. No special occasion. No big plan. Just the 2 of them in her kitchen after closing. She was eating the last piece of whatever dessert she had made that night. He was sitting on the stool across from her. The same stool. The same counter. She looked up, and he was holding something small. She went completely still. "Jay," she said, "I'm not going to make a long speech. You would find it too much." She almost laughed. "I am going to say one true thing." She looked at him. "What is the one thing?" "That I came back for my phone. And I found you. And every day since then I have been exactly where I want to be." Her eyes were bright. "That is more than one thing." "I know." He held out what was in his hand. "Simple. Beautiful. Exactly right. Will you?" She looked at it. Then at him. At the man who had sat on a stool and finished a piece of tart and answered the question about which part. Who had come back not for his phone. Who had brought tea and told true things and sat on the floor talking until the sun came up. Who had stocked a whole kitchen from memory. Who had waited without pushing. Who had loved her all the way. No gaps. No small lies. Just him. Yes. He put the ring on her finger. She looked at it for a moment. Then she looked at him. "The tart is going to get cold." He laughed. She kissed him. Right there in her kitchen. In her restaurant. In her life. The one she had built and chosen and made entirely her own. Outside, Chicago kept moving. The lake was out there past the buildings. Cold and still and enormous. The light in the kitchen was warm. His arms were around her. And she thought about her grandmother. About that kitchen. About small hands on a step stool being told, "Take your time. Take your time with the things that matter." She had. She finally had. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story like this one. Turn on notifications. We drop new stories every week and you do not want to miss what is coming next. And leave a comment below. Tell me, what was the moment you knew he was coming back for her and not for the phone?